My name is Joyce. Sitting here by the window, looking at the city lights, I can't help but recall that fateful family dinner. The room fell into a deafening silence as I calmly announced, "Perfect. Then she can handle the $9,200 I've been paying off for her." It was as if the very air had been sucked out of the room. Forks froze mid-air, and the soft chatter abruptly stopped. Growing up, I was part of a well-to-do family in a small, tight-knit community. My parents, Victor and Amelia, were prominent figures in local social circles. Victor was a respected business executive, always focused on maintaining our family's social standing. Amelia, on the other hand, was a socialite who thrived on appearances. She was obsessed with what people thought of our family, always arranging charity events and elegant dinners to enhance our reputation. My sister, Isabella, was 4 years older than me. She was the belle of every ball, the one with the effortless charm that could turn heads. In high school, she was the class president, always at the center of every social activity. In college, she claimed to be building a networking empire, yet somehow always managed to just scrape by her courses. I was the practical one, the behind-the-scenes worker. While Isabella was out charming people, I was at home studying hard, making sure my grades were top-notch. I didn't mind at first. I thought that's what siblings did. I supported her in the shadows. Amelia once told our neighbor, "Isabella is our shining star. Joyce is our reliable support." I forced a smile, pretending those words didn't sting. As the years went by, Isabella's life started to take a turn. She lost several jobs, always coming up with elaborate excuses. But Victor and Amelia turned a blind eye. "She's finding her way," Amelia would say. "Everyone needs some time." The problem was, that time was costing me. 6 months ago, Isabella called me in a panic from a parking lot. "Joyce, my funds are frozen. The bank made a huge mistake, and my card is blocked. Just help me for a month, please. You're the only one I trust." I, being the naive one, believed her. I signed some loans and started covering her payments. While I was scrimping on my daily expenses, cutting back on groceries to make ends meet, Isabella's social media feed was filled with pictures of luxury vacations and expensive dinners. My phone would buzz constantly during work meetings with overdue payment alerts. At first, I gently reminded her, but as the situation got worse, my messages turned into pleas. She would reply with sweet words and emojis, making me feel like a hero for helping her. I kept telling myself that she was just irresponsible, not malicious. I convinced myself that she would eventually sort things out. Then came the invitation for a family dinner. Amelia announced it with great fanfare, like she was producing a Broadway show. Thursday night, formal attire and a special announcement. I showed up out of habit, not expecting anything good. The house was filled with the smell of scented candles, perfectly cooked steak, and polished silverware. The false sense of normalcy was suffocating. When Victor raised his glass and declared, "To Isabella, our provider," it felt like a slap in the face. Everyone around the table lifted their glasses, smiling and applauding. Isabella had that perfect smile, the one that could deceive anyone. Aunt Clara's bracelets jingled as she raised her glass, and Uncle Henry mumbled, "Here, here." I forced a small, shallow smile that hid all my pain. The crystal rim of my glass touched my tooth, and the sound seemed to echo louder than the applause. Amelia reached over and patted my hand. "You seem tense, dear. Be happy for your sister. She's worked so hard." Worked? I thought of all the unpaid bills, the sleepless nights I spent worrying about her debts. Isabella had worked me to the bone. Isabella leaned in, her perfume overwhelming. "You've been so quiet, Joyce. Are you okay? Maybe you're just overwhelmed." That word, overwhelmed. She used it every time I tried to hold her accountable. It was her way of dismissing my concerns. Victor cleared his throat, like he always did when he wanted to restore order. "Your sister has been such a pillar for this family. We're so lucky to have her." The irony was almost too much to bear. Isabella's smile wavered slightly, perhaps sensing that I was about to break. My phone buzzed under the napkin with another payment reminder. It was like a countdown to this inevitable moment. The small talk around the table sounded like white noise as I thought about all the apologies I had swallowed over the years, all the times I said, "It's fine," to keep the peace. When Victor lifted his glass again and said, "To Isabella," I exhaled slowly. I felt a strange calm wash over me, like the calm before a storm. I set my glass down carefully, and the sound cut through the air. I took a deep breath and said, "Perfect. Then she can handle the $9,200 I've been paying off for her." The silence that followed was deafening. Amelia blinked in shock, and Isabella let out a nervous laugh. "What are you talking about?" she asked. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick envelope. "These are the statements, payments, and receipts. Every single charge I covered, so your credit wouldn't be ruined." Victor's face hardened. "You should have come to us privately." I looked him straight in the eye. "I did. Twice. You said not to embarrass the family." Isabella stared at the envelope as if it were a bomb. "You're exaggerating. I told you I'd fix it." I looked at her, feeling nothing but exhaustion. "Then start." No one moved. The room was filled with an uncomfortable silence. Amelia stood up and started fussing with a tablecloth. "We'll talk about this later." I stood up too. "No. You wanted a provider. Well, here she is." And with that, I walked out of the room, my reflection stretching across the polished floorboards. No one called after me. 4 days later, my parents summoned me back. The scene was the same table, the same candles, and the same false pretense of peace. Victor sat at the head of the table with a folder in front of him, looking like a judge. Amelia hovered near the sideboard, and Isabella leaned against the wall, scrolling through her phone. "Sit," Victor said. I did. He slid a check for $200 towards me. "We can settle this." I didn't touch the check. "Settle? You mean hush me up?" I replied. Amelia let out a sigh. "Joyce, please. You embarrassed your sister. Let's be civilized." Isabella finally looked up. "You didn't have to make a scene. You could have just called." I stared at her. "I did. Twice." She rolled her eyes. "You're so dramatic." I shrugged. "I'm just being thorough." Victor exhaled deeply. "We've taken care of the money. Now it's about your attitude." I reached into my bag and placed a stack of papers on the table. "What's left is the truth. All the evidence." Isabella's smile faded. "You kept all these?" Just then, from the corner of the room, a voice spoke up. "Is it true, Isabella?" It was her boyfriend, Ethan. He'd been sitting quietly all this time, his face pale and tired. Isabella froze. "It's complicated." Ethan nodded, his expression set. "Okay." And he walked out the door. Victor pushed the check closer to me. "Take it." I folded the check and slid it back. "This isn't forgiveness. It's just a receipt." Victor looked relieved, but I shook my head. "It's not good." Amelia's voice trembled. "You're making this worse." I snapped back. "Worse than what?" "Paying for your perfect image while you all praise Isabella." I gathered the papers and left. No one followed me. For weeks, there was silence in the family. Our family's silence was a form of control, a way to rewrite the story before it spread. Then one night, an email landed in my inbox. The subject line read, "Hi. I think your sister scammed me." The sender was Lily, who claimed to have worked for Isabella's so-called tech startup that never actually launched. She sent me all the evidence, messages, invoices, and screenshots. Isabella had recruited young designers, promised them equity, and then disappeared. I stayed up all night reading it, my heart pounding. There was a strange calm growing inside me. 2 days later, Ethan showed up at my door with a small drive. "She left this. You might want to see it," he said. Inside the drive, there was a spreadsheet titled Bridge Loans. It listed all the people Isabella had borrowed from, including family, friends, and coworkers. Next to my name was the amount $9,200 marked as cleared with the word backstop. The sight of it made me sick to my stomach. That night, I created a folder and sorted all the records, building a timeline. It wasn't about revenge. It was about documenting the truth. A week later, A local startup forum posted an anonymous article titled, "The Fake Empower." Although no names were mentioned, it was obvious who it was about. The article went viral, with people sharing their similar experiences with Isabella. Amelia called me, her voice shaking. "Tell me you didn't do this." I replied, "I didn't write it, but it's true." She demanded, "Then stop it." I told her, "I can't. The truth has a way of coming out." She hung up in a huff. By morning, Isabella's potential employer issued a statement that they were withdrawing their job offer and launching an investigation. That evening, Victor showed up at my apartment. He looked defeated, his shoulders slumped. He held out an envelope. "It's $15,000 to cover the rest." I shook my head. "Money isn't what I need. I need accountability." He looked down at the floor. "I thought I was keeping the peace." I said softly, "No, you were keeping up the act." He nodded slowly, as if a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. On Monday at 9 a.m. I published an article titled "The Golden Facade: Family Secrecy, a Sister's Deceits, and the Price We've Paid." I included all the details: the dinner, the debt, the fake company, and the victims. I signed my name at the bottom and closed my laptop. Within an hour, the article started spreading. By noon, it had 70,000 shares. Some people called me brave, while others called me cruel. I didn't care. I just wanted the truth to be out there. That evening, I received an email from my parents. "We're deeply hurt by your decision to make our private matters public. It's best if we end all contact for now." They were still trying to control the narrative, but there was no audience left to deceive. I sat by the window, looking at the city lights. I felt a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in years. It was a quiet that was mine, not forced or fearful. The next morning, the world seemed normal on the surface, but everything had changed. I didn't wake up worrying about Isabella's debts or family drama. The air in my apartment felt lighter. By noon, the headlines had shifted from gossip to the impact of Isabella's actions. Women who'd worked with her came forward, confirming every detail. Isabella's name started trending alongside words like fraud and exploitation. My inbox was filled with messages of gratitude. "Thank you for speaking up," one person wrote. "You saved us from the same fate." Amelia called me again, her voice broken.
"She's broken, Joyce."
"She can't leave the house." I replied calmly, "She's facing the consequences." "That's not the same as being broken." "She's still your sister," she pleaded. I whispered, "I know, and that's what makes it painful." There was a long silence, and then I heard her soft sobs. I didn't hang up. I just let the pain and the truth exist between us. That evening, I drove past their house. The porch light was off, and there was no warm glow from the dining room. There were no more fake family dinners or false smiles. I didn't stop. I just looked at the windows that once framed our so-called perfect family and saw true peace in the absence of the lies. When I got home, I opened my laptop. The folder I'd labeled evidence was now renamed closure. I backed it up to the cloud, encrypted and protected. It wasn't to hurt anyone, but to remember. Sometimes, justice is a quiet breath after years of living a lie. I didn't destroy my family. I just stopped being the one to keep their secrets. They called it betrayal, but I call it liberation. Now, when people ask about my family, I don't shy away. I tell them the truth. Some stories end when you stop trying to make them perfect for everyone else. I still don't know if my parents will ever call again, or if Isabella will ever apologize. Maybe that's not important because peace isn't the applause after the chaos. It's the quiet that remains when the noise fades away. If you've ever drawn a hard line with your family, I'd like to know what it cost you.